Tech Talk brought to you by Tamani Technologies and Systems. Tamani Technologies and Systems takes leadership in fourth industrial revolution. The whole world is facing a transformation. The revolution will be developed into the following stages: digitization, cyber security, Internet of Things, managed services, document management, and business applications. We provide business transformation and ICT solutions with presence in 13 African countries and 2 European countries. We are your leading partner in integrated platform providers, innovation leaders, standalone products, and innovation pace setters. Tamani Technologies and Systems, delivering value across continents.
Good morning and welcome back to Pan-African Morning. Here's hoping you are still with us, and if you have just joined us, you haven't missed it all as we continue to educate you and entertain you on this morning. Thank you for staying with us. If you have just joined us, I'm Audrey Chimwanda-Thwala, standing in for the lovely Sisanda Qwabekuto, who'll be back with us in a few days' time. Joining me in studio is our resident health coach who has all the health tips to make sure we stay healthy and we stay within a healthy mindset. And of course, you can see in front of me here, I've got a beautiful plate of food, all the 7 colors, and a nice smoothie. EPHRAIM, good morning and welcome back to the program. It's such a pleasure to have you back.
Good morning, Audrey. Thank you so much for welcoming me.
So let's start with what we have in front of us today. Tell us what we're seeing here. I see there's fruits, there's vegetables. It all looks very lovely.
Thank you. Start with the salad. The purpose of just doing the salad is to showcase to people that food is medication. Once we understand, that when you eat food from its natural state, that's how healthy we are going to become. Because now most of the time we think that if you can just make it a point that, okay, like we do not look at that particular aspect of life and just eat anything, and with the hope that one day when we're not feeling well, we're just gonna get a red pill, pink pill, purple pill, green pill. It's not gonna help us.
Yeah.
Because now we are becoming now drug addicts. Because every time there's a problem, we wanna swallow. And most of the time, we don't even know what to say to are taking. So that is what is called medication. Excuse me. What is in there? There you've got avocado, you've got strawberries, you've got baby spinach, you've got red peppers, green peppers, you've got like yellow peppers, you've got strawberries, as I said, you've also got apple, because another thing that I wanted to make the point you understand is that I didn't put like salad dressing there.
I can taste that. It tastes very fresh, I have to say.
Yes.
It's not oily.
No.
It has a very fresh taste to it.
Because now people do not understand that once you start preparing such food and then you just dump it with the salad dressing, that you don't even know. I mean, like most of the time we do not even understand the importance of looking at the back of any container that we have to read the ingredients. Because in the ingredients, they are not writing the post that they want to. They write it because it's legislated that they need to let you know as a client What is it that you're going to be
putting inside
buying?
of your body?
Firstly, you work hard for your money. You buy something. You don't even get an opportunity. You don't even make time to read. What are you actually putting in your system? Right?
And I have to say, you know, just looking at the ingredients that we have here, this is all very easily accessible stuff, because a lot of times as people, we make excuses to say, you know, I really want to eat healthy, but it's expensive. But I can see with the stuff that you've managed to put together for us here, it is stuff that is in season, the fruits that are in season, the vegetables that are in season as well. What else can people do to make sure that within their budget, you know, it's been very difficult for a lot of people that don't have income, you know, dispensable income that they can use to be able to buy some of these things. How do they make sure they stay healthy?
What we recommend is that it's easier, excuse me, when you, let's make an example. If you've got 100 rands, excuse me, and then you just want to go and buy some fruit and veggies, as an example, you're going to get so much. But can you imagine if maybe like we are 10, we take our 100 rands, you make it 1,000 rands. We go and buy the healthy stuff, you're going to get so much.
Right.
The problem about us, we always think for ourselves. If we can start thinking communal, it will help us, because most of the time we waste so much money. Because once you buy in bulk, it's like you are negotiating. Because I mean, like now you've got more money. When you've got more money, you can get more value.
Correct.
That is why even now, if you go to the shop, like now the fruit and veg shops, most of the time, they always got specials. Right? I mean, when I was to buy these items yesterday, is that you find that a box of tomato, a bag of potato, bag of carrot, carrot, but a bag of carrot, and also maybe like put the butternut, 129. I mean, really now, are we so unable to understand that we do not have to be misled by the marketers? You know, the food industry is a multi-trillion-dollar business.
True.
But the sad part of it is that most of that food, if you're not careful, is that you're not eating something that's going to help us. And last week we were talking about, you need to realize that whatever that you eat, remember, always ask yourself, are you feeding the disease or are you fighting the disease?
So profound, because most of the time when I look at this plate, beautiful as it does, we always feel like if we don't have meat on the plate, then it's not going to make us full. It is not going to sustain us. Can this sustain us? Can I eat a plate of this and make sure until lunchtime my stomach will still be full? Because I don't see meat here.
Mrs. Audrey, I really appreciate that statement you're making, that you want to be full. Please, from today, and everybody that's watching, I didn't greet them, good morning, everybody, is the following. The purpose of eating is not to be full. Please, let's always remember that. Purpose of eating is to nourish the body so that it fights the diseases, right? There's no need for us to eat until we sweat. There's no need for us to eat the whole plate. There's no need for us to eat as if like you're competing. We need to eat slowly, because once you eat slowly, is that we are able to, chew the food thoroughly before we swallow.
Very important. I'm just looking at the staple foods that we have, not only in SADC but across the continent.
Yes.
We have a lot of starch in our diet. We have a lot of carbohydrates. And starting off this conversation, you said that food should be seen as medicine instead of waiting for us to get sick and then we start popping pills.
Yes.
How would you analyze the kind of diets that we have in Africa? The staple diets, that is.
Yes. I allude that to the fact that we are not educated. We are not empowered. We are not coached to understand what we have. Most of the time, we always look at what we do not have. We do not look at what we have. And once we can start looking at what we have, it will help us to start thinking differently. Because now, think about it. How much land do we have in the continent?
And all the good food is food that is grown from land,
From
correct?
land. What is it that's stopping us from making a point that within a little piece of land that we have, and another thing that it will help if we can start working together, right? Because now, another thing I'd like to mention now is the following. Do you know that this year only more than 270 medical staff in South Africa only have lost their lives? 270 minimum, right? I don't know how many in the continent. I'll look at that, and hopefully next time when we discuss it, I'll make it a point where we also get to that point. Because there are lots of doctors that keep on, or not doctors, on the medical staff. Because it's not only doctors on the medical staff, there are nurses as well. There are different professions in that medical field. But the sad part about it is that now they keep on losing their lives. Coming back to what we're talking about, that if you look at the world, in fact, not the continent, you look at the amount of land that you have. And the person will say, no, I don't have a piece of land, but how much does a seed cost? I mean,
so you can do your own subsistence farming at home without necessarily having these commercial farms that then produce the food that we eat.
We can do it differently. And the thing about it, we need to always be creative in our thinking. Creativity is one of the most important things. And that's why, from the health coaching's point of view, we always talk about two things: primary foods and secondary foods. Right.
What do we have in front of us here today?
What you have there is secondary food.
And what classifies it as that?
Secondary food is the food that you eat. Primary foods are the foods. We call it primary foods. What do I mean by that? Home environment, home cooking, creativity, joy, education, physical, health, mental, vocational, societal, spiritual, right?
Yes.
Financial and familial. All these components, there are 12. All these components, they play a very pivotal role in your health. That is why we need to understand the following. As much as we've got all the healthy food there, we haven't even touched on what you have on the glass there. But
oh, yes, we absolutely need to talk about this. I would say this is a smoothie, right?
Yes.
Mix of fruits that have been blended.
Yes. No, all of them, they're healthy stuff. There's nothing that doesn't come from the ground. Nothing. Right? Now, your body, once you feed your body like that, your body reciprocates. In other words, your body will give you all, it will reciprocate, it will give you all the benefits your body
that
desires.
you require. I've heard this, and I would like you to debunk it for us, if you will, that most of the diseases that we have that emanate from our bodies come from the kind of food that we eat. Is there any truth to that?
100% truth. But also, as I've mentioned about the primary foods, here's the thing, let me make an example. Can you imagine when you're in a toxic relationship, the home environment that you spend time in is not conducive for you to be in peace. All the time, there are arguments. All the time, there are things that you don't even understand. What is the issue? People keep on bickering about nothing. People always trying to think that every time, when the happiness only comes in when there's money. It doesn't mean that. Money is not going to be there all the time. And another thing that people are not able to do is they're unable to forgive. People will always tell you about something that happened 20, 30, 40 years back. I mean, you're not even supposed to sleep one day angry. Because the things that you do, if you are angry, you are overloading your body.
Because toxins.
Yes, but I mean, like now your body, when you're always healthy and happy, you forgive. You do not wait for the time to make sure that you wait for somebody to apologize before you can forgive them. You are not taking control of your own health. Because whatever that you're doing, you don't just get sick for nothing. There are things that causes, right? Or that cause those diseases. But most of the time we think that, if there's something that we're experiencing in our bodies, the first thing that we think of, what can I take? The first thing we should be doing is that, why is my body doing like this? What is it did I eat? Another thing that we do not do, Audrey, is that we do not even journal, right? We do not even know why we feel the way we feel. What did we eat? What is it you're worried about? Because once you start journaling, if you can take a notebook every day, you say, okay, like what did I eat today? You list those things that are there. Like as much as you say on that last day, there are strawberries, there are kiwi fruit, there are pineapples, there are apples, there are blueberries there, They are,
And I hear blueberries are very good for antioxidants and...
all those things that are there, they're very good. All right?
This is absolutely sumptuous, and I cannot wait to have it as soon as we hit the break. I really actually have been hungry, so I appreciate that you managed to bring this plate for us. And the next conversation that we have, I really want us to delve deeper into, actually, you touched a bit on it, having a healthy mind and how it feeds into the chemistry of the body, and how it can make us feel ill as well, and how food then comes in and also tries to be a remedy for that. But I suppose for now we'll have to leave it there. EPHRAIM, thank you so much for your insights. It's always interesting to have you on the program and imparting such knowledgeable information for us. EPHRAIM MAROBELA there is a health coach giving us all the healthy tips that you'll be able to use throughout the day as you make sure that you keep yourself healthy and in a good state of mind. This is Pan-African Morning. We're going to take a very short break just so we can eat this. We'll be back after this. Just stay with us.
To eat healthy food because it's delicious.
Make massive moves.
Would you like another one?
I love it. I love this soup. This is amazing. The grits are so creamy. Oh.
I take pride in my grits.
So flavorful.
I think that looks wonderful.
Yeah.
It's so incredible. Make massive moves with STARSAT.
This is not your ordinary cooking show.
The show where we do all things amazing, all things African.
Over here, we educate.
Avocado seed. It lowers cholesterol, controls blood sugar and blood pressure.
We heal.
Impepho is good for the immune system as well, because here cures sugar, the blood sugar, blood pressure.
It's all about organic conversation.
So in here you've got yourself a nice vitamin C, you've got garlic, which is your natural antibiotic.
Oh, wow.
I can't wait.
Great one.
We entertain. And purely African food.
And this is how you finish it up. With a slice of lemon, you just dig in and you eat and you get healthy.
Welcome to the home kitchen.
Coming soon on Galaxy Universal Network, Channel 500 on StarSat.
Pan-African Morning coming to you bright and live from Johannesburg. Thank you for joining us. To all of you across the continent and those of you that are joining us all around the world on our social media platforms, on our live streaming services. Our Facebook page is live as we speak. I'm Audrey Chimwanda-Thwala, standing in for the lovely Sisanda Kwabekuto, who'll be back with us in a few minutes. I still have with me our health coach in studio. EPHRAIM, as we're talking about just before we took the break, about how it's important to have a healthy state of mind,
yes,
and that how affects the body as well, so that it works in conjunction with healthy food, so that a person can live a healthy life. How do we make that balance?
Okay. Let's just make it a point of like we recap on the primary foods.
Yes, let's start
so
from
people
there.
can understand what primary foods is all about. Primary foods are the foods that you think that they're not food, but they feed into your well-being, or they can also make you unhealthy because of the things that you're doing incorrectly. So, as an example, Can you imagine when you talk about, like now, I will just touch some of them because I'm not going to be able to have time to delve onto those 12, but we're just going to try to give them brief. As an example, the physical mind, I mean, like the physical body, it's got an impact on how you feel, right? The mental, how your state of mind. If you're a negative person, you feed your mind negativity, right? Whatever you focus mostly on, that's what grows. Right?
Powerful.
So if you're always negative, you always see the wrong things, you always see the bad things, you always see the things that are not going right, you don't even appreciate what you have. And that's why I was saying that most of the time, people always look at what they don't have, but they don't appreciate what they have. Can you imagine yourself if maybe like you do not appreciate, you know what, you're able to wake up, you can have a bath, you know? And appreciate those, gratitude, right?
And it starts with the small things, right?
But the thing about us, you always think that, you know what, you always look at, I'll be happy if.
When I have $1 million in my bank account, before that, I would
for
be
those
happy.
who think like the billionaires in this world that are not happy, because one thing that happens, if you're doing something that you do not love, right, you are not living. The time you start living is when you do something that you are born to do. What do you mean by that? You're following your purpose, you're following your passion, you're following your calling. You're not just coming here in this earth just to fill up the space. There's a reason why God created you into this world. The day I understood why I'm born, that's the day I stopped working. That's the day I started living. Because now, I don't work.
You don't call what you do work? Because it's your
I'm not
calling.
working.
Wow.
I'm living because I'm doing what is part of my DNA. Ever since I was born, I've never smoked once. I've never drank any alcohol once. Right? I don't go to the doctors. More than 25 years or so, I don't go to the doctor. I don't take medication. Right? Because I understand. I don't wait for anybody to apologize before I forgive. Another thing I talk about in home environment. In the environment that you are based in, if you are not able to realize that whatever environment you are in, you know, there are people that when there's time to go home, they don't go home. They say, where can I go? Because if I go there, it's going to be lots of negativity, toxicity, arguments, and all those type of things. And what happens when those things happen? There's no happiness. It affects the person who's doing those things. It affects the person who those things are being done unto. It affects even the kids, right? And at some point in time, the whole family is not going to be healthy, right? Because once you start living in that environment, the body cannot take it. And what happens if the body doesn't take it? Then your body starts to suffer. Once the body starts to suffer, because remember, your body's got the best interest at heart. The body does its best to make sure that it fights off all these things that you're giving it to deal with. Because, I mean, like it's got to do with, think about it, that why do you have to go through this? Because the body is supposed to be living healthy, but now you're making the body to overwork itself. This is the best machine that you can ever get in the whole wide world, yet we underestimate the power the body has. The body can heal itself by itself, given enough a chance. All the body needs you to do is need you to know how to listen to it, because it gives you all the feedback you need. Whatever that you're doing is going to have a positive or a negative impact into your whole own health.
Right.
Right? So that is why it's important for us to always remember whatever that we're doing. As I said, when we started, I said, are we feeding the disease or are we fighting it?
Yes.
Fight it. Why should you wait for somebody to apologize before you forgive them? Why? Because you're giving power to that person. Right?
And feeding poison into your body.
It's like taking a poison, thinking it's going to kill another person. It's killing you.
So we need to learn to protect our mind and our mental state of mind. Talk us through what are called lifestyle diseases. I suppose they have a lot to do with what we eat as well, and what you've already spoken about, living in an environment that makes sure that we are in a healthy state of mind. And I also want us to talk about the secondary foods that's coming out of the primary foods, getting into the secondary food, what that means, what that looks like, and what it does for us.
Yeah. Okay. You've touched lots of different angles, but let's try to unpack it within the time. Okay, no problem. Let's do that.
Hour.
Yes. So now what happens is the following. With regard to the primary foods that we've mentioned, right, people need to understand that the more happier you are, the more healthier you're going to be. Right. Now, as I said, the primary foods are the foods that you do not eat. However, they play a very pivotal role in your health. Right. As I was making an example with forgiveness. And if you're not able to be, to be forgiving, your creativity level dies. Right. Now, in every part of these elements, of these 12 elements, you're not going to be all of them on 10. If maybe you make it up and okay, push them up to 10. There's the other one's going to be 5, the other one's going to be 3, the other one's going to be 5, 10, 7, 8, 10. But the thing about it is that it's your responsibility to understand that you need to make sure that you push them or you keep on getting better. And that's why I always tell people that, all the clients that you have, that constant and never-ending improvement plays a very pivotal role. Right? Once you become a student of life, you realize that you're not perfect. You've never been perfect, you're not perfect, you will never be perfect. However, if you work on being constantly and being constantly and never-ending improvement, as long as you compete with yourself so that today you can be better than yesterday. The things that you're going to learn today, you didn't know them yesterday, so you're going to improve, you're going to become a better of yourself. The thing about people, they want to compete, right? Learn and write your own exams of life. Going back to the secondary foods that you eat, as long as the food that you eat are from the ground, and avoid the cardboard box food. Because most of the time, the marketers, they always advertise all this unhealthy food. Have you ever seen this food on a billboard? The food that you're having there? No. You never see that on a billboard. Why do the marketers, the junk food marketers, put that junk food, put that healthy food on there? And another thing that you need to realize is the following. Whatever you're doing now, you're going to pay the price. You're going to pay the good price or the bad price. What's the good price? The good price is going to be making sure that you are investing in your own health. People who think that when you're investing, you're going to invest money. The lifestyle that you live today, if you're going to subject yourself to drinking alcohol, smoking, taking all these drugs, legal and illegal, and making a point that, okay, you don't look after yourself so you can be on your ideal weight, you're going to pay the price. Because if you're suffering from any of these 4 things, there's no way you're going to be healthy. And that is why that we realize that, okay, like with regard to the health coaching, that is it. Now the first world countries phenomena. Many people do not even understand. People have got doctors, but if you ask them to have a health coach, they don't have a health coach. Now, what's the difference between the two? A health coach will help you to understand and make it up and look like you understand how your body functions, so that you can make correct health choices. What's the benefit of that? Just to make it up and you are not going to be subjected to be, to live a life where you're going to be always going to the doctors, going to the clinics, going to the pharmacist, and just taking your hard-earned money instead of making a point, okay, you enjoy your money with your family. You are busy supporting the drug companies. Yes,
because prevention is better than cure, right?
And your health is your responsibility. Your health is your wealth. Start now. Don't say, I didn't know. Now you know. Start now. Understand that you need a health coach. And you need to be in a position where you start empowering people. And that's why I appreciate this work that, okay, we do, or this effort of making sure that we empower people. Because there's no way people will know these things.
Yes, they have to be taught. They have to be coached. And we're so grateful at Pan-African Morning to have you as our health coach, as you impart this wisdom to thousands and thousands of viewers across the continent. I'm sure they also certainly appreciate what you had to say for us here today. EPHRAIM, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Sis Audrey. Can I just make last part?
Yes, very quickly. We're hitting half an hour.
It's important for us to understand that let's use whatever we have, the ground that you have, and let's also make it a point that you can share, the information, and also share the little money that you have into making a point that you invest in our own health, so that we're not going to spend millions or thousands and thousands and thousands of money trying to get and buy our health back. Because it doesn't matter the amount of money that you have, it's not going to get your health back.
Yes. That is true. We've seen that happening. So there you have it, from our health coach's mouth to your ears. If you do not invest today, you will pay for it later. Basically, that's what we heard today. We'll take another very short break here on Pan-African Morning. Do stay with us. We have more news and updates and entertainment coming on the other side.
Make massive moves.
Picture perfect, you don't need no filter.
Another one.
Make massive moves with STARSAT.
This is not your ordinary cooking show.
The show where we do all things amazing, all things African.
Over here, we educate.
Avocado seed, it lowers cholesterol, controls blood sugar and blood pressure.
We heal.
Impepho is good for your immune system as well. This here cures sugar, the blood sugar, blood pressure.
It's all about organic conversation.
So in here you've got yourself a nice vitamin C, you've got garlic, which is your natural antibiotic.
Oh, wow.
I can't wait.
Great one.
Be entertained. And purely African food.
And this is how you finish it up. With a slice of lemon, you just dig in and you eat and you get healthy.
Welcome to the home kitchen.
Coming soon on Galaxy Universal Network, Channel 500 on StarSat.
25 minutes to top of the hour to 8 o'clock in the morning. Thank you for being with us and staying with us here on Pan-African Morning as we continue to give you all the entertaining stories, news and updates from across the continent. I'm Audrey Chimwanda-Thwala. In one of our top stories today, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, Lesetja Kganyago, celebrated his 6th year at the office during the October Monetary Policy Review yesterday. Kganyago said hundreds of women and men who work with the Reserve Bank are the ones who deserve to be celebrated. And he stated that the COVID-19 pandemic was a major blow for the country's economy. He also said that South Africa's lockdown was one of the most stringent from across the world.
The South African economy, we expect, will be rebounding from a deep second quarter contraction. We expect that GDP will decline by 8.2% in 2020, followed by growth of 3.9% in 2021 and 2.6% in 2022. Against this expectation of what we had seen the economy evolving during the course of this year, we had to ask ourselves the question of what is the nature of this shock. Obviously, the nature of the lockdowns meant that this is in essence a supply side shock, and if it is a supply side shock, there is very little that monetary policy can do with the supply side shock. But what we saw was that the supply side shock also invoked a demand supply shock. People lost their incomes, and because people had lost their incomes, people were not spending, and so you then had this demand shock, and that is where monetary policy comes in. Since the pandemic, at our first meeting in March, the South African Reserve Bank took particular steps to provide support to households and firms in South Africa. We believe that the measures that we have taken, one, we acted with scale, and two, we acted with speed. We adjusted the policy rate from March all the way until July by a cumulative 275 basis points, and if you include the steps taken in January, it would be 300 basis points.
He further said that the GDP had declined by 8.2% in 2020, following a growth of 3.2% in 2021. 2,000
good men and women of the South African Reserve Bank who make sure that the South African Reserve Bank lives true to its constitutional mandate. We are going to be presenting the second edition of the Monetary Policy Review for 2020, and this is taking place within a particular context. We have had the COVID-19 pandemic, and this COVID-19 pandemic has caused a deep global downturn, worse than the 2009 crisis. For South Africa's trading partners, we project that for GDP this year would be a contraction of 4.2% versus 0.6% in 2009. Now, with this global pandemic, which is in essence a health crisis, the nature of the response from jurisdictions around the world was to adopt lockdowns to deal with this pandemic. Of course, what the lockdowns have done is that we have seen divergence in how these lockdowns have been implemented across the world. Lockdowns have typically been stricter in emerging market economies than we have seen in the advanced economies. On average, South Africa's lockdown has been the 7th most stringent worldwide.
This is still Pan-African Morning. Still enjoying this beautiful food that we got from our health coach earlier on. You really need to try this. It really is scrumptious, healthy, and absolutely what you need to start off your day with. Now, in another story, the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture has once again heard evidence on matters relating to Eskom. A former independent consultant at Eskom, Nicholas Linnell, concluded his testimony where he detailed the extent of his involvement in establishing an inquiry into Eskom and the subsequent suspension of 4 executives. In his testimony, he was followed by evidence from former Group Capital Executive Zasden Morokane and the former Chief Financial Officer Chulufelo Mlefe. Both testimonies detailed political interference and unfair suspensions at Eskom.
I was later called into the boardroom. The chairman of the board was actually presiding over this meeting. Me into the meeting and said, you know, we're having conversations with executives. You are one of them that we need to have a conversation with, and this pertains to specifically the board's decision to institute an independent inquiry into the dealings of the company so they can understand precisely where we are. And part of the resolution was quite clear that this investigation has to happen in a space that is free from the influence of executives in whose areas of responsibilities the investigation is going to focus, and as such I'm going to be put on suspension for a period of time when the investigation is ongoing. He made it very clear, Chair, that the investigation will take no longer than 3 months, and also was quite at pains to explain that there is nothing wrong or any allegations against me that have been tabled. They need to create an atmosphere that is free to get to the bottom of the issue.
Now let's take a listen into what the former Eskom Chief Financial Officer Chulufelo Mlefe had to say as well.
Because he was aware as well that we needed to have the financials approved, have the interim results announced, because those financials were important for us to go and raise funding on the international market. So he understood the importance of those financials. So I impressed upon him that we cannot cancel the meeting. We have to go ahead. He then said to me, he will speak, he will think about it, and he'll come back to me. He came back to me, I think, just under an hour, indicating that, in fact, he didn't come back to me. The secretary, the company secretary, sent us messages to all board members to say the chairman has requested the meeting to be cancelled, and that he is going to have a meeting tomorrow with the shareholder, the Minister Lim Brown at the time, to discuss the matter. I had impressed on him I then called him again. I said, Mr. Tsotsi, these results are very important. I don't think it's a good idea to cancel the meeting. And I actually asked him, but who is asking that we cancel the meeting? Is it the board? Is it the shareholder? And he said to me, it is people from outside. He would not tell me who it was, but he just said that he is getting pressure from people from outside to cancel the board meeting.
South Sea employees embarked on a strike action yesterday that was supported by the trade union. They're demanding an increase in salary. Our very own Basetsana Pora was on the ground, and she brings us this report.
Employees of telecommunications company South Sea came out in numbers to protest against retrenchments and the mistreatment of employees.
The employees in Shore are here to say enough is enough. We cannot allow South Sea to go out and contribute to the unemployment situation in the country. We can no longer allow or sit by the sidelines and allow South Sea to carry on with the retrenchment that is unlawful and unprocedural. We cannot allow South Sea to embark on the mass retrenchment that is aimed at the low-income earners of this company. And we will definitely not allow Blue Label Telecoms, who are the 45% majority shareholders who remain to be profitable because of South Sea, to sit by the sidelines and allow for us to be thrown onto the streets. We say enough is enough. We say that the management are the ones that must be held accountable for everything that is happening within South Sea. We say that if anyone is going to be thrown into the street, it must start off with the CEO of this company. We are where we are at because of the decisions that he has endorsed under his flagship as COO. We're also asking what compelled Blue Label to move Douglas from COO as a position of COO under South Sea and to be appointed as the CEO, even when he has failed to turn around the South Sea's economic or financial standing. We are saying that we will not give up. We are saying that we are going to occupy the spaces. We are saying that we are coming for you, Blue Label. We are saying that we are coming for you, South Sea. We are saying that we are coming for you, Investec. We are going to find out what you have done with our shares. We are going to find out the decisions that you have made behind closed doors without consulting with the union. We are coming for you, Mr. Juba. We are coming for you to say that this unprocedural and unlawful retrenchment that you have embarked on, we are not going to stand by and let the black child suffer under your watch. We are coming for you, South Sea. We are not going to stand by. We are coming for you. We are coming in our numbers. No person, until you follow the law as said in the regulations, as said by the CCMA. We are coming for you, the CCMA, you commissioner, that have embarked to oversee this process that is unlawful. We are coming for you, 2,500 people of this company. We will not sit aside. We will not sit down. We will not fold our arms and watch you throw us into the streets. And that is largely why we are gathered all here.
The retrenchments are a big concern given that the unemployment and poverty rate in the country are already so high.
You know, when South Africa unites, then South Africa works. Right now, an injury to one is an injury to all. When you say these workers are being put out of work, it's not just individuals that are affected. It's families, it's communities, in fact, it's the entire nation. The whole nation is affected by retrenchments. But ADEC, African Democratic Change, is not just here only because of Cell C, because there's a wave of retrenchments that's taking place in the country where thousands of families are going to be out of a job. We are glad that when we raised the alarm bells about 2 weeks ago, that unions have also come on board. And today we are standing together with the union ICTU, its leadership who are present here as well, that represents the workers here at Cell C. Now, what we've uncovered is gross mismanagement on the part of Cell C management. We've also found that Cell C has not been honest with its workers. There is no need for retrenchments because Cell C has been making profits. Cell C over the past lockdown period has been highly profitable. You know, no one can say that a cell phone company has been losing money during the lockdown period because everybody used their cell phones. They made more money. So when you look at the at whatever financials are available for Cell C, you'll find that they've had no impact, no negative impact on their financials. Now, what corporate companies are doing in South Africa is they are making bad investments. They have weak management. They are paying them exorbitant figures. And because of that, they are restructuring and downsizing their staff. And what they're doing is targeting the middle and lower income workers. That is a great sin because these are families that rely almost entirely on this income to survive. If you have no income for a month, you put them into the streets. So what Cell C and other corporate companies are doing by firing their staff, this is no other word that we can use except firing of staff. By firing their staff, they are adding to poverty in this country. Our poverty levels are extremely high. We've got over 50% poverty. Unemployment in the country is sitting at over 12 million now. In the last 3 months, unemployment has increased by another 2.2 million. So by these companies retrenching their workers, we are adding to the unemployment queue. What to us is of concern is the fact that this government, is completely oblivious of the plight of the workers and of the plight of families and of the plight of this country. We say to the public, to the South African public, indeed the entire international community, to stand with us as we protect the dignity and the livelihoods of our families in this country. That is the most important thing that we want to see. And we want ordinary South Africans who are at home right now to come and join the workers to stop this bloodbath of jobs that's taking place in the country.
With more than 2,500 workers already given retrenchment notices, the employees say abayindawo.
Protest action in South Africa has become a norm, and for these Cell C employees it has become a reality. They say they will not go back home. Instead, they will shut down each and every store that Cell C owns in South Africa. For Galaxy Universal Network, I am Basitana Pora.
Now a recap of our top stories and headlines here on Pan-African Morning before we hit top of the hour, 8 o'clock. A police van was burned as incensed farmers lost patience in court. And Pick n Pay cut ties with Kwasizabantu Mission amid sectism allegations. And a Church of England, a hiding place for sexual abusers and inquiry fines. South Africa to deploy drones at the Beitbridge border. And the Guptas are challenging Eskom and the SIU as they try to claw back 3.8 billion rand. And a black hole discoveries win a 2020 Nobel Prize for Physics. Now, employees of telecommunications company Cell C came out in numbers to protest against retrenchments and the mistreatment of employees. The retrenchments are a big concern, obviously, given that the unemployment band poverty rate in the country is already so high. We heard several people speaking in the package that we played earlier, where more than 2,500 workers already have been given retrenchment notices, and the employee says that they are not going anywhere. Another story now. Reports are emerging from Luthuli House allege that the ANC Secretary General Ace Magashule has been issued with a warrant of arrest over his alleged involvement in the Frede Dairy Farm project. Magashule was the Premier of the Free State when money meant to empower emerging farmers was allegedly misused. Now, this is the latest in a series of arrests made by the Hawks in recent times. Others arrested in the Free State recently include Edwin Sodi and his co-accused. They stand accused of corruption in the multi-million rand asbestos project in the province. Meanwhile, the ANC Youth League in the province says that the arrests are a well-orchestrated usage of state organs to fight internal faction battles. On the other hand, the Hawks spokesperson Mangani Muraudzi has confirmed that various media reports detailing the alleged warrant of arrest for the ANC Secretary General were untrue. Muraudzi says that the Hawks issued a brief statement calling the reports of Magashule's impending arrest a malicious intent to undermine the integrity of the organization. He added that the Hawks would like to categorically, distance itself from those media reports regarding the so-called impending arrests of Ace Magashule. It is understood, however, that Magashule was going to be arrested and charged over his role in the controversial Frede Dairy Farm project. In other news now, we take a look at court proceedings that happened at the Senekal Magistrates Court in the Free State that were disrupted by angry farmers yesterday. They overturned and burned a police vehicle. The farmers were baying for the blood of two suspects who appeared in court in connection with the murder of farm manager Brandon Horner. Farmers have called for the return of the death penalty. A 21-year-old Roo was allegedly murdered last Friday. The two suspects are charged with the murder that made a brief appearance in Senekal Magistrates Court. Horner was found with a rope around his neck, tied to a pole on the farm. Farmer Piet van der Merwe has called for the return of a death penalty, and another farmer says that they are disturbed by the latest killing. EPHRAIM has also weighed in on the issue. Deputy Chief Executive Officer Ernst Roots says the anger that is coming from the farming community is justified. This case has been postponed to next week Friday to allow the 32-year-old Mahlamba and his co-accused, that's 44-year-old Mahlaletsa, to apply for bail. And in news coming in from the presidency, Cyril Ramaphosa has assured educators that they will be safe as schools return into full capacity amid an ongoing battle against the deadly COVID-19 pandemic. The president was addressing the SARTU 30th anniversary on Tuesday evening. He said the government will ensure that teachers are supplied with all the necessary personal protective equipment. The president further urged educators to continue adhering to the regulations that are stipulated by health experts. He also stated that there still remains a task to eradicate violence in schools as both teachers and students are victims.
Our children and nurturing them to be the future builders of our country. Government is committed to the safety of all our educators and learners, as well as of all the support staff in our school environment. We will continue to do everything in our power and within our means to ensure that your safety is not undermined. We will continue to provide our teachers with personal protective equipment and all other support that they need to teach successfully and safely. At the same time, I urge you to continue to be vigilant. We must keep ourselves and others safe by continuing to observe the regulations around social distancing and good hygiene protocols at all times. We are acutely aware of the many other challenges that make it difficult for our teachers, educators to do their work. We are working tirelessly to resolve problems in our schools with regard to infrastructure, namely on issues such as sanitation, water, electricity, proper and safe classrooms, as well as access to adequate learning materials. We must work together to rid our schools of violence that threatens the safety not only of learners, but also of our educators, because many of them have been subjected to violence, and learners have also been subjected to violence. And we must work together to eradicate violence in our schools.
The President further urged South Africans to join hands and fight against corruption. He said that citizens should report any kind of corruption they may come across, adding that the voice of the people on ways that could be implemented to eradicate corruption must be heard.
In the fight against corruption, wherever it rears its head, and let us report and expose corruption wherever we see it. There is a continued pressure that we all face from our people about corruption, and we must respond to what our people are saying in relation to eradicating corruption. Let me also...
Our Communications Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams has denied allegations that she interfered in the procurement and awarding of tenders by the South African Post Office. Media reports allege that Ndabeni-Abrahams pressured the Post Office to award a lucrative 2.1 billion rand e-commerce tender to her preferred bidder. She has labelled the allegations as frivolous and baseless. She further says these allegations only intend to harm her reputation. She says that anyone that has evidence that is linking her with any wrongdoing should approach law enforcement agencies.
Although in the beginning I did not want to respond to all these allegations, given their frivolous and baseless nature, and generally due to my respect for the freedom of the press, it is now clear that the attack is not only malicious and meant to be defamatory, but the attacks are systematic. And it is for that reason that I have decided to take the opportunity of this platform to set the record straight. I wish to categorically state that all these allegations are baseless, unfounded, and devoid of any truth. As any responsible government, it is our responsibility that we make sure that we avoid getting people out of jobs. All we are saying, you cannot sleep and wake up and you want to just retrench people. A clear plan, as we had said when I came to this portfolio in 2018, a clear plan is required.
I was later called.
Well, you're still watching Galaxy Prime. Well, I beg your pardon, I'm used to Galaxy Prime. Normally you see me in the evening. Today I'm in the morning standing in for the lovely Sisanda Kuto, who will be coming back in a few days' time. This is Pan-African Morning, of course. It's still morning. We're happy that you're still with us. We have a very special guest in studio today. We have the South African Ambassador to Finland, Her Excellency Smit. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us on Pan-African Morning and blessing us with your presence today.
Thank you so much for inviting me to speak about our relations.
Yes.
I'm quite pleased to do that.
Yes. So let's start right from the beginning, from your appointment. How have you taken to it, all the challenges that come with it? Of course, there's the good side that comes with it as well. How has it been for you from the time that you were appointed?
It's been exciting and deeply honored to serve my country in this position. And it has been not just, I wouldn't say it's challenging. We are given a mission to carry out, yes. And you engage on the mission that you have received from, and the mandate that you received from the President and the rest of government.
Right. So just looking at Finland, it's a totally different climate to South Africa. How did you adapt to that?
I think it's a state of mind wherever you go. I knew that I didn't go search for South Africa, of course,
yes,
and Finland. I knew that I had to set my mind to adapt as quickly as possible in order for me to carry out the task ahead for the 4-year tour of duty.
Yes. Well, I'm sure you took to it like a duck in water.
It was exciting at the beginning. You know, it was cold. You know, it's a cold country.
Of course, yes.
So it was quite an adjustment. You get excited initially because of the snow. Yeah, but it also gives you a total different outline of activities that you could do. So one of the things that myself and my colleagues have done, we've actually traveled quite a bit within Finland. And in order to understand the different culture that we engage, and you would find that people in the city is not necessarily the same like people in the rural area. So you get to discover people similarly like you would do in South Africa. And it gives you great insight into how different Finnish people from the east, the west, the south, and the north.
Yeah, because people say we live in we're global citizens. We live in a global community. There's similarities and differences that we find, but mostly there's really similarities as we're all human beings, isn't it?
Yes, there is many similarities that we find in the way we do things. But I think with every society, there's certain cultural norms and standards that is applicable.
Right, of course. Now let's talk about what you touched on a bit as we started this conversation, relations between South Africa and Finland. Since 1949, since it was re-established, the ambassadorial in March 1991, how has been the relationship between the two countries from way back then?
I would say we've got historic relations.
Yes.
And as many people are aware, the Nordics had played a key role in terms of our liberation struggle. One of the projects that we did as a mission is, you'd find it on our YouTube channel, Ubuntu Crossing Borders, where we interviewed those that participated in the anti-apartheid struggle, which is predominantly from the trade unions and the student movement that put pressure on the government of Finland. We also had the former President Halonen, whose father was very key in the trade union movement. So that is a story to follow, which you will find on our YouTube channel. On a YouTube channel. We've gone quite social.
Yes. It is the times we're living in, isn't it?
So you'll find it but you'll also find it on a Facebook page and on our Twitter page, SA Helsinki.
Right.
And you'll be able to get some historical context in terms of the liberation struggle. There has been relations historically from 1949 in different ways. I've even read a story that there was one Finnish guy that participated in the Anglo-Boer War, which I found quite interesting.
Wow.
I found it somewhere in the archives. So there's quite a long history between Finland. But I would say that our relations has grown substantially over the years from strength to strength, both on a bilateral level and on a multilateral level.
Yes, because I see here that relations had to be re-established. Would you talk us through exactly what that means?
As you're aware that, I don't know if you're aware that during the apartheid, with the anti-apartheid movement, they didn't have full representation in Finland at the time, and then you also had different chief reps from, say, the African National Congress that also had representation during that time. So when we were going into negotiations and when we were moving towards democracy, that's where the re-establishment for full mission started during that transition period
Yes.
in 1991.
It's quite a historical lesson, isn't it?
Yeah.
Quite interesting. But I suppose for more details, our viewers can always go onto your website and your YouTube channel, as you mentioned. Let's talk about trade relations now. We do know that South Africa trades quite a bit with Finland. How has been that relationship? How's been the contribution from the Finland side? Because others may have viewed it as if perhaps it could be biased on the Finland side, but I know that that has been addressed at some point. How would you describe the relationship at the moment?
I think in terms of trade, we import quite a number of raw materials, but we also we export quite a number of raw materials, but we also export commercial vehicles and value-added products, commercial vehicles and cosmetic products to Finland. On the other hand, obviously, it's true that the trade balance is in the favor of Finland. And the reason for that could be because they import machinery, mining equipment, paper products. What we've been doing quite a lot of promotions to try and create a broader space for our exports into the markets. The trade balance at the moment is 48 million euros for South Africa, and then 366 million euros in favor of Finland.
That's quite a huge disparity there.
It is, but it's work in progress because we're not just in agreement in terms of there is regional agreements. So how we deal with trade in that perspective, because we have SADC, we're part of SADC and we're part of SACO, and then you have the Finnish being part of the EU. And with the SADC-EU partnership that was concluded in 2016, how companies promote themselves and the knowledge about our products needs to be shared on those markets more and more. And we need to find ways to enter, but that obviously also gets handled very much by our trade ministry.
Of course.
In terms of the global negotiation together with the Department of International Relations.
Yes, but just from your understanding, Finland would be open to those kind of arrangements, so to speak, to make sure that there's more awareness on other products that South Africa could trade with Finland going forward.
That is the role of part of the role that missions play.
Yes.
In promoting new products into the market, seeing how we can access the market better. We did a wine promotion last year with the Women in Wine. There was quite a substantial number of women in wine, up and coming as well as established.
Okay.
So we utilized the space to create access to the market. But as you know, everything is a process.
Of course.
And everything needs to be taken in that context. The other thing that has become a huge issue within the Finnish space is environmentally friendly products, more relating to the products that would not harm the climate. So
green
also
farming.
In terms of what you bring into the market, it has to appeal to Finnish people.
Right.
And they can be very strong on their preferences in terms of those things.
Right, so it'll be up to South Africa to make sure that they fit into the requirements of those trade agreements. I know we trade quite a bit of fresh and dried fruit, so steel, coal with Finland. What would you say is the biggest export product that we have with Finland in South Africa?
I would say it is, as I said, it's within our raw materials, but also the commercial, as I mentioned earlier, the value-added products, which is picking up quite substantially.
All right.
within the Finnish space. There is potential for greater opportunity for value-added products. During our Heritage Day celebrations, we had a Heritage Week celebration. One of the things that we did is we had one person go out and find what are the latest products that have entered the Finnish market. If I compare it to when I got there and I compare it to now, I should say there's quite a number of new products that is finding entry into the Finnish, but that is value-added products.
With this global pandemic that we're going through, what lessons do you think, how do you think Finland has handled it compared to South Africa, and what lessons can both countries draw from each other, do you think?
I think you cannot, Finland has handled the pandemic accordingly to their societal frameworks and their legal frameworks in terms of how they've managed the pandemic in Finland, and also in line with the EU, because many of the decisions relates to decisions of the EU.
Just like we do here with the African Union,
yes.
I suppose.
So with us, we've done this, we've done similar things, and I think, I don't think we've handled it the best that we possibly could, and I'm not going to speak for the president. The president has spoken on many of these issues.
Yes.
But obviously there's comparative analysis that is drawn from the global studies, and it's been mentioned in many of the interviews. On
a broader term, yeah. Let's perhaps talk about the issue of unemployment. I'm sure you're aware of the numbers that have been heralded by Statistics South Africa. They are escalating. We hardly hear that there's issues of unemployment in countries like Finland. Do you think that's a PR exercise from Finland, or do they also have those issues? And if they don't, once again, what strategies can we learn from Finland to try and help our situation here back home?
I would say it's very difficult to take a system and implement it in another country, because as is.
Of course.
There might be certain elements that you can take over and see how it's applicable, because it's about population size, it's about disparities, it's about a range of other challenges and positive things that is different, and also cultural norms and standards. So that is the one issue. But Finland is quite a highly educated society. They've got standardized education throughout, from primary school, actually from early learning, straight through. What you'd find that they put a lot of emphasis on education. Teachers have to have master's degree.
So that's a basic entry into the job.
And it's not simplistic to get into the teaching profession. It's highly competitive. So a lot of emphasis.
Is it highly lucrative when it comes to remuneration as well? Would you think that's an incentive?
I think teachers get paid generally okay, generally well. But I think it's more also about a passion for teaching from what I've picked up. And so people would actually really work very hard to get into the teaching profession in itself, because they dedicate up to master's level to get there. And then there's quite the way the processes work in Finland is teachers don't get, the municipalities decide on which teachers get appointed. So and that process is quite it's not an easy process, but also just to qualify to do teaching. It's not simplistic. They've got a system put in place. We don't have enough time to get into
all those details. Yeah.
But they've got a clear system put in place for choosing who gets into teaching. The other thing, they also place a lot of emphasis on vocational training. And therefore it creates quite a competitive market in terms of opportunities and also in terms of employment. The other thing that I think is important to know that they also have a social welfare system that takes care of those that don't work.
Yes.
So you find...
But we have that in South Africa as well, yeah.
You find that they've placed a lot of emphasis on entrepreneurship and innovation. So it's easier for somebody, a young person, to take the risk in terms of entrepreneurship and innovation, because there is that social system that, I wouldn't say, in case challenges are met, the person would be taken care of. So I think that is different.
Yeah.
But it's also
very interesting, yeah.
The population size of Finland is about 5.5 million.
That is a drop in the ocean of South Africa. And the demographics obviously will be different, the age groups and whatnot. If we can go back, Ambassador, to the issue of trading, we touched a bit on coronavirus. Do you think the pandemic has shifted the way that Finland and South Africa, operate in their trade deals in any way, or some things need to be relooked at going forward? Because they say this is the new normal, and if there's any changes, what those could look like?
I can't answer that question straight because it's still a process unfolding.
But we can expect some kind of change,
there is definitely already a change in the way we do diplomacy, using the virtual space to do trade promotions. In terms of how the change would unfold, as you've seen, most of the meetings are taking place online. In terms of how the deals would be structured, it's very difficult at this stage to say, because that is, negotiations, it's not a once-off situation.
Yes.
It is a process that unfolds between different regions, between different countries. The one thing I can say is, even prior to the pandemic, there's been a great emphasis on putting more, focusing more on Africa. And Finland has been in the process of writing their own African policy strategy in terms of their focus and how they see that. So I don't see that much changing at the moment, but I suppose it's how we engage that changes.
Of course.
Yeah.
Cultural exchange programs are something that a lot of young people are interested in. I think we touched a bit about the issue of education in Finland, how you were saying that the population is highly educated, but that's of course on the on the education side. Is there programs such as those between South Africa and Finland that you're aware of, or is that something that could be in the works, so to speak?
There's been quite a bit of work done to try and solidify cultural exchange. So it's still work in progress. There's quite substantial cooperation between Finnish institutions and South African institutions. And we've witnessed quite a bit of student exchange over short periods taking place. Both, just to mention, Stellenbosch University is one of those. And then you have Tshwane University of Technology, that has also been quite active in that space. Last year, there's been Gibbs, so there is potential for those various
kind of programs
to happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about, you know, we know Finland was quite active in the time of when South Africa was going through apartheid, especially those individuals who were in exile. Are there any forms of support that we still get from Finland around, you know, such areas? Of course, apartheid is finished now.
Yeah. Since 2009, South Africa was listed as a middle-income country. Thus, we don't get direct development assistance anymore. The assistance that does get offered by Finland would be to civil society. You'd see quite a bit of that. And then we do have some collaborations between South Africa and Finland in the Southern African region. And as I mentioned earlier about the university, that also have quite substantial collaboration. And then also and the assistance in the Southern African region is around innovation and entrepreneurship, and also the new science and technology, Internet of Things. We had quite a substantial cooperation on that.
Okay, interesting. Well, I suppose we'll have to leave it there for now. I wish we had more time to discuss further, but Ambassador, thank you so much for your time and enlightening us about what's happening between South Africa and Finland. I hope that our viewers managed to get quite a bit of information from you there, and of course all the information websites that you've spoken about that people can go to find out whatever they need to see with regards to what's happening between the two countries. And we certainly hope that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much.
Ambassador Smith there speaking to us. She is the South African ambassador to Finland, and she's back home, as you can see, for a while. I forgot to ask what you're doing at home. Shouldn't you be in Finland at the moment?
Yeah, no, it's taking care of some urgent personal matters.
Right, yeah, she's with us for now, and we're, of course, happy to have you home. This is Pan-African Morning. Do stay with us. We have more news and updates on the other side of this.
Make massive moves.
How can you say that?
That is what it is.
Your mother eloped with someone else.
I just think this is such a genius idea. I think it's amazing.
I can be happy. It's inside you. It's inside of all of us.
It's about cooking smart that are nutritious and delicious.
President Trump acknowledging the coronavirus death toll could be significantly higher.
We don't want to do this. There is nothing you can take.
Jerusalem.
Surviving roommates scared.
The heavyweights arrive.
Inside finds Petulia, blocked by Jane.
This is the will of God.
Make massive moves with STARSAT.
Hello. The fourth industrial technology era has forcefully changed how every profession has been working for its clients. The world has become smaller than what we used to think. Imagine the ease of talking to a person who is in Australia, China, or Germany while you are in South Africa, as if you're just next door. The ease that globalization and the fourth industrial technology have brought to humanity entail doing business anywhere in the world, as long as you have the purpose and the means. It is our expertise as MB Chabongo Incorporated to advise clients immigrating to South Africa on various permits and on opportunities for travelers who intend to sojourn in South Africa for a longer period of time.
Ayé náà ti kéré ju èyí tí a rò lọ. Nítorí náà, ìmọ̀ wa ní ìsìlọ̀ àti òfin àgbáyé ṣe wá ní ọ́fíìsì àkókò lórí àwọn ìṣòwò ilé àti ìgbaniláyé láti gba ìwé ìrìnnà fún iṣẹ́ okòwò.
Go MB Chabangu Incorporated, Reba Elegy, the Notary, Liba Sebedisi, Lady Office Jarnakua, Pretoria, Johannesburg, Bloemfontein, MB Chabangu Incorporated, Ukumanera, Rabonolo, Bariki Barina, Uhumana Tarisole Sedin Gabotlalo, Rehopela Lerle Lechamogalo 012 341 4187. Goba le rengwala le lengwalo tsubile go admin@chabangu.co.za. MB Chabangu Incorporated, mo mathata a humanago tharollo.
Welcome back to Pan-African Morning. A very good morning to you. If you have just joined us, do please get in touch with us on our social media platforms. Our Twitter handle @GUN_TV_. Our Facebook page is live as we speak. Would love to hear from you. Tell us where you are watching us from. I'm Audrey Chimwanda-Thwala, standing in for the lovely Sisanda Gqobekuto. We'll be back with us in a few days. In one of our top stories today, Communications Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams has denied allegations that she interfered in the procurement and awarding of tenders by the South African Post Office. The media reports allege that Ndabeni-Abrahams pressured the Post Office to award a lucrative 2.1 billion rand e-commerce tender to her preferred bidder. She has labelled the allegations as frivolous and baseless. She said those allegations are baseless and only intend to harm her reputation. She added that if anyone has any evidence that is linking her with any wrongdoing, then they should approach law enforcement agencies.
Although in the beginning I did not want to respond to all these allegations, given their frivolous and baseless nature, and generally due to my respect for the freedom of the press, it is now clear that the attack is not only malicious and meant to be defamatory, but the attacks are systematic. And it is for that reason that I have decided to take the opportunity of this platform to set the record straight. I wish to categorically state that all these allegations are baseless, unfounded, and devoid of any truth. As any responsible government, it is our responsibility that we make sure that we avoid getting people out of jobs. All we are saying, you cannot sleep and wake up and you want to just retrench people. A clear plan, as we had said when I came to this portfolio in 2018, a clear plan is required.
The minister further revealed that she is against the looming retrenchment at the public broadcaster, that's the SABC, stating that there should be a proper plan to save jobs. On to other news now. The governor of the Reserve Bank, Lesetja Kganyago, celebrated his 6th year at the office during the October monetary policy review yesterday. The governor said hundreds of women and men who work with the Reserve Bank are the ones who deserve to be celebrated. He stated that the COVID-19 pandemic was a major blow for the country's economy. Kganyago further stated that South Africa's lockdown was one of the most stringent.
2,000 good men and women of the South African Reserve Bank who make sure that the South African Reserve Bank lives true to its constitutional mandate. We are going to be presenting the second edition of the Monetary Policy Review for 2020, and this is taking place within a particular context. We have had the COVID-19 pandemic, and this COVID-19 pandemic has caused a deep global downturn, worse than the 2009 crisis. For South Africa's trading partners, we project that for GDP this year would be a contraction of 4.2% versus 0.6% in 2009. Now, with this global pandemic, which is in essence a health crisis, the nature of the response from jurisdictions around the world was to adopt lockdowns to deal with this pandemic. Of course, what the lockdowns have done is that we have seen divergence in how these lockdowns have been implemented across the world. Lockdowns have typically been stricter in emerging market economies than we have seen in the advanced economies. On average, South Africa's lockdown has been the 7th most stringent worldwide.
He further explained that the GDP is expected to decline by 8.2% in 2020 and then followed by a growth of 3.2% in 2021.
The South African economy, we expect, will be rebounding from a deep second quarter contraction. We expect that GDP will decline by 8.2% in 2020, followed by growth of 3.9% in 2021 and 2.6% in 2022. Against this expectation of what we had seen the economy evolving during the course of this year, we had to ask ourselves the question of what is the nature of this shock. Obviously, the nature of the lockdowns meant that this is in essence a supply side shock, and if it is a supply side shock, there is very little that monetary policy can do with the supply side shock. But what we saw was that the supply side shock also invoked a demand supply shock. People lost their incomes, and because people had lost their incomes, people were not spending, and so you then had this demand shock, and that is where monetary policy comes in. Since the pandemic, at our first meeting in March, the South African Reserve Bank took particular steps to provide support to households and firms in South Africa. We believe that the measures that we have taken, one, we acted with scale, and two, we acted with speed. We adjusted the policy rate from March all the way until July by a cumulative 275 basis points, and if you include the steps taken in January, it would be 300 basis points.
The Commission of Inquiry into State Capture has once again heard evidence on matters relating to Eskom. A former independent consultant at Eskom, Nicholas Linnell, concluded his testimony where he detailed the extent of his involvement in establishing an inquiry into Eskom and the subsequent suspension of 4 executives. His testimony was followed by evidence from former Group Capital Executive, that's Den Morgane, and the former Chief Financial Officer, Julofelo Mlefe. Both their testimonies detailed political interference and unfair suspensions at Eskom.
I was later called into the boardroom. The chairman of the board was actually presiding over this meeting. Me into the meeting and said, you know, we're having conversations with executives. You are one of them that we need to have a conversation with, and this pertains to specifically the board's decision to institute an independent inquiry into the dealings of the company so they can understand precisely where we are. And part of the resolution was quite clear that this investigation has to happen in a space that is free from the influence of executives, in whose areas of responsibilities the investigation is going to focus, and as such, I'm going to be, put on suspension for a period of time when the investigation is ongoing. He made it very clear, Chair, that the investigation will take no longer than 3 months, and also was quite at pains to explain that there is nothing wrong or any allegations against me that have been tabled. They need to create an atmosphere that is free to get to the bottom of the issues.
We also heard from former Eskom Capital Executive Den Morakane in his testimony. Here's an update.
Because he was aware as well that we needed to have the financials approved, have the interim results announced, because those financials were important for us to go and raise funding on the international market. So he understood the importance of those financials. So I impressed upon him that we cannot cancel the meeting, we have to go ahead. He then said to me he will speak, he will think about it, and he'll come back to me. He came back to me, I think, just under an hour, indicating that, in fact, he didn't come back to me. The secretary, the company secretary, sent us messages to all board members to say the chairman has requested the meeting to be cancelled, and that he is going to have a meeting tomorrow with the shareholder, the Minister Lim Brown at the time, to discuss the matter. I had impressed on him I then called him again. I said, Mr. Tsotsi, these results are very important. I don't think it's a good idea to cancel the meeting. And I actually asked him, but who is asking that we cancel the meeting? Is it the board? Is it the shareholder? And he said to me, it is people from outside. He would not tell me who it was, but he just said that he is getting pressure from people from outside to cancel the
Process initiative to secure railway infrastructure is seemingly bearing some fruits. This is according to Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula. Mbalula says they have deployed 3,100 security guards to look after the railway infrastructure that had been damaged severely over the past years, with incidents escalating due to the national lockdown following the outbreak of the coronavirus in the country. Mbalula says the guards are doing a great job, and as the department, they will continue to protect the state resources.
And vandalism does not start yesterday. It was simply amplified and accelerated during the period of COVID-19 and the shutdown in our country. But criminals have been in charge here in Prasa. They've been running a show, and then they've been aided by some of the employees inside. Been an inside job. So it will be incorrect to think that criminals and syndicates who are vandalizing this property have been acting on their own. And that is why PRASA has taken a decision which we support to in-source security. There are many positives with regard to that. Of course, the unions will gain new members. But the fact of the matter is that we've got people now who are directly accountable to our watch. You can see him, right? It is PRASA security, permanent security. Now, where I want security to be, don't even compare with what we have seen. It's neither close to what I've mandated them to do. I want a totally new arrangement where in which security, with your donkey peel and everything and so on, push back people, you can see the crowds. Those who don't have tickets will not enter the train. From where we are, people just enter the train. They simply showed us their tickets. You know, they operate like EPHRAIM. They said that, no, I bought the ticket. But nobody was checking the tickets in the morning. And that is not what we want. The arrangement I want, and which is the mandate of government.
The Church of England failed to protect children from sexual predators within its ranks for decades, allowing abusers to hide in an attempt to defend its own reputation rather than following its duty to protect young people. This came out of an inquiry on Tuesday that from the 1940s to 2018, 390 people who were clergy or in positions of trust associated with the church have been convicted of sexual offences against children. The sexual abuser in the church has been prominent. The inquiry says over many decades, the Church of England failed to protect children and young people from sexual abusers, instead facilitating a culture where perpetrators could hide and victims faced barriers to disclosure that many could not overcome. According to the report, the primary concern of many senior clergy was to uphold the church's reputation. The report recommended that both the Church of England and the Church in Wales should each introduce a church-wide policy on the funding and the provision of support to victims of child sexual abuse concerning clergy.
The leadership of the global church, without doubt, has passed on to the global south, and Africans are taking a lead. And this is a cause for great celebration. It's not the white man, or it's a religion of the Middle East, it's a religion of Africa, it's a religion of Asia. So for me, this is absolutely encouraging.
During this recent gathering of Anglicans in Jerusalem, it became clear one of the world's largest Protestant denominations is refocusing efforts to spread God's word to the nations.
What's so encouraging is that we have many people here from Africa or Asia. These countries only received the message of the gospel 150 or 200 years ago. They have believed the gospel, they remain faithful, and now God has sent them to us, especially in the West, to remind us that we must return to our gospel roots.
People in the U.S. would recognize the Episcopal Church as part of the Anglican Communion. The goal of this Jerusalem meeting was to create a roadmap for the future of this church body. It began in 2008 to uphold traditional church teaching and emphasize the critical importance of the Bible. Archbishop Stanley Atagali from Uganda believes this group exists to maintain the purity of the gospel.
It's all about Jesus, all about mission, evangelism, preaching the biblical gospel, so that we do not divert from the biblical truth. We remain focused on the Bible, the authority of the Bible, the teaching of Jesus Christ.
Members of this conference oppose the liberal teachings in some Western Anglican churches that embrace same-sex marriage and homosexuality. Those teachings led Archbishop Nicholas Oko from Nigeria to call on the Archbishop of Canterbury, the leader of the Anglican Church, to repent.
We would like him to know that a big chunk of people he's leading are complaining very badly about his direction, his trajectory. And so we would like him to change. That is to say that they must make a definite stand.
The Defence Minister, Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, says they will be deploying drones along parts of the Bay Bridge border post to help fight the illegal entry of people into South Africa. Now, this will be done in addition to regular patrols by soldiers. She was responding to questions from members of the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, that SCOPA, regarding the much criticised new fence along the border with Zimbabwe. The fence has proven no hindrance to people that are entering the country illegally. Mapisa-Nqakula says the fence has been found to be on the wrong, of the wrong specifications to the one that was ordered, and it was procured irregularly. The minister says they are doing this to rely more on technology, even though there would still be the presence of military personnel in the border. She added that the fence did not solve the problem as it was vandalized and stolen.
Hey, come out!
And your passport.
my sister.
Give this phone safe.
Sharp mamas.
We take a look at regional news now. A major archaeological discovery in Egypt is showing off massive graves that have been uncovered there. These are ancient graves that were discovered recently. We saw the Egyptians there showcasing them to people that have been digging for quite a while now. Here's a report from Egypt.
Egyptian archaeologists have unearthed about 60 coffins believed to have been buried for more than 2,500 years. The coffins were discovered south of Cairo in the sprawling burial ground of Saqqara, the necropolis of the ancient Egyptian capital of Memphis, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The find is the first big announcement since the outbreak of COVID-19 in Egypt, which led to the closure of museums and archaeological sites.
Today, it's not the end of the discovery. I consider it's the beginning of the big discovery. All these coffins belong to the late period, most probably around the 26th dynasty, 7th, 6th century BC. That means that they are sealed, closed, since more than 2,600 years.
Elenani said the coffins will be showcased at the new Grand Egyptian Museum, which the country is building near the Giza pyramids. Excavations in Saqqara have in recent years unearthed troves of artifacts, as well as mummified snakes, birds, scarab beetles, and other animals.
And in a scramble to protect people against the coronavirus pandemic, there has been a flood of face masks that are fake. Reporters made an investigative report and compiled all the fake medical equipment that has also been found flooding the market. Here's a report.
The mask is supposed to filter out 95% of dangerous particles from the air. It didn't even come close.
This one we've never seen go above 75% effectiveness.
That's because it's a counterfeit. The coronavirus pandemic sent individuals, companies, and even whole countries scrambling to buy up scarce masks and other critical medical supplies. The United States was caught largely unprepared.
Months into the pandemic,
this is a huge security issue.
For the past 7 months, the Associated Press, Frontline, and the Global Reporting Center have been investigating how the country's medical supply chains broke down.
This is what I was worried about on steroids.
America's medical supply crisis.
Link after link failed, and that catastrophic collapse is perhaps the most consequential failure of the United States effort to battle COVID-19. It explains why there's a higher rate of death in this country than almost any other country in the world. And it was not unexpected.
Following one shoot, reporters noticed that an international charity had received a shipment of fake N95 masks from China.
Probably our biggest surprise in this pandemic has been that counterfeiting issue.
People donating masks to medical workers were also asked to send some to AP. The masks were then sent to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill for testing. Researcher Philip Clapp says the masks didn't stand up to scrutiny.
Everything we've seen here is a counterfeit of sorts.
Some were obvious fakes and easy to spot.
If you see anything that's clearly labeled as NIOSH N95 and it has ear loops, that's a dead giveaway that it's a counterfeit product.
Others needed hours of research into certification codes, batch numbers, and proper label designs. But the real proof was in the testing. After fitting the masks with metal stems, a member of the UNC team would enter an air chamber filled with charged particles.
And this allows us to connect a particle counter to this space and measure the particles that are penetrating behind the or into the breathing space.
The person in the chamber would go through a series of activities meant to mimic the range of motions a typical worker might perform.
Bending at the waist, reading a passage out loud, looking left and right, and looking up and down.
Some of the masks tested in the mid-30s. In a pandemic, numbers like those could mean the difference between life and death.
If you're in an operating room and you're using equipment that's not doing its job, you may be highly vulnerable.
The AP also sent Clapp one of the masks it bought for its own employees. Turns out it was a fake.
We actually saw that it only worked at 35% efficiency.
The manufacturer and distributor did not respond to requests for comment. Once alerted to the problem, the AP says it changed suppliers and sent out new masks.
It is a shame that people are faking products like this, as if COVID and dealing with that is not hard enough.
But as the pandemic...
Well, an African entrepreneur invents a first ever made in Congo rechargeable irons. They are rechargeable and they can conserve energy for up to 3 hours. Here's a report from the Congo.
Mask is supposed to filter.
It took him 8 months of trials to make sure this rechargeable iron could work properly. In this laboratory, 23-year-old Baraka Safari Eli spent his whole day making these rechargeable irons, the first of its kind in the Democratic Republic of Congo. They are rechargeable and can conserve energy for up to 3 hours.
Among the solutions we have provided is the rechargeable iron, which allows users to iron for a period of at least 3 hours without having electricity in the house. And this means that you can charge it. You can even travel with it in trips anywhere if you need to iron. If you don't have access to electricity, you can always use our iron.
N'importe où vous aurez besoin de repasser, si vous n'avez pas accès à un courant électrique, vous pouvez toujours utiliser notre fer. Aside from this ironing device, Elias also invented a rechargeable stove fabricated with raw materials imported from several foreign countries.
We receive a large number of calls and messages every day, and we are not able to cover the demand with our own resources.
Without any support from the Congolese authorities, this young man wants to make life easier for the Congolese people in a country where electricity is a problem.
The difference between this iron and the other one is that it works with embers. You have to light the fire first, and you can even get the clothes of your customers dirty. But with this iron, it is not complicated. It's really a good one. And the other one there, when the power goes out, we won't iron anymore. But with this one, even if the power goes out and it is charged, it will continue ironing without any problem.
The iron costs $25, but the import of raw materials is a challenge given to the closure of borders following the COVID-19 pandemic.
United States President Donald Trump departed from Walter Reed Medical Center just outside of Washington. This after spending 4 days in the hospital to receive treatment for COVID-19. Arriving by helicopter at the White House, President Trump walked across the lawn and up to the steps to the upper level of the residence, where he stopped for a photo op, taking off his mask to wave, and he gave a thumbs up and saluted Marine One as it departed. Trump's determination to put COVID-19 behind him comes as the country is facing a daily increase in new coronavirus cases. Now, the global count stands at just over 35 million cases, with the United States accounting for around 7.5 million of those. America has a death toll of just over 210,000, and latest reports indicate that numbers of positive cases are rising in over half a dozen states. And that's a wrap for Pan-African Morning. Thank you for waking up with us today. We certainly appreciate you joining the program. From myself, Audrey Chimwanda-Thwala, and the crew behind the scenes, we hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And do stay tuned to Galaxy Universal Network. Coming up at the top of the hour, we have Harmony Mbele as it takes you through Morning Express with an update on the news. Have a good morning.